Welcome to Brainish English Stories.
The Rubberneck auto was almost ready to go. The happy people on the top seats had been given their places by the friendly conductor. The sidewalk was full of people who came to look at other people, like the natural law that every creature is watched by some other creature. The man with the megaphone lifted his loud instrument. The big car started to shake and make noise like the heart of a person who drank too much coffee. The people on top held on tightly to the seats. The old lady from Valparaiso, Indiana, screamed to be let off. But before the car moved, listen to a short message through the loudspeaker, which will show you something interesting on this sightseeing tour. Very fast and clear is how white men know other white men in the African wilds. Quick and sure is the feeling between mother and baby. Easily do master and dog understand each other. Very fast and wise are the messages between people who love each other. But all these examples are slow and unclear compared to one other example which the Rubberneck coach will show. You will learn, if you do not know already, which two beings on earth most quickly see into each other's hearts and souls when they meet face to face. The bell rang, and the glaring at Gotham car moved smoothly on its tour. On the highest back seat was James Williams from Cloverdale, Missouri, and his bride. Make it clear, my friend, that last word of words in life and love. The smell of flowers, the treasure of the bee, the first drip of spring water, the song of the lark, the twist of lemon peel in a drink, such as the bride. The wife is holy, the mother is respected, the summer girl is fun, but the bride is the best gift when a man marries. The car moved up the Golden Way. On the front of the big car, the leader stood, telling the passengers about the big city. With open mouths and ears, they heard about the sights of the city. Confused and very excited, they tried to look at everything the loud man talked about. In the tall church towers, they saw the home of the Vanderbilts. In the busy Grand Central Station, they thought they saw the simple house of Russell Sage. When asked to look at the highlands of the Hudson, they stared at the piles of dirt from a new sewer. Many people thought the elevated railroad was a place where men in uniforms checked your tickets. And to this day, in the country, many people believe that Chuck Connors, with his hand on his heart, leads reform, and that without the good work of Parkhurst, a district attorney, the bad bishop, Potter gang would have destroyed law and order from the Bowery to the Harlem River. But please look at Mrs. James Williams, Hattie Chalmers, before she got married. She was once the prettiest girl in Cloverdale. Pale blue is the bride's color if she wants it, and she liked this color. The pink of a rosebud made her cheeks look lovely, and as for the violet, her eyes are beautiful just as they are, thank you. A small strip of white cloth, oh, no, he was driving the car of white chiffon, or maybe it was grenadine or tulle, was tied under her chin, pretending to hold her hat in place. But we both know that the hat pins did the work. On Mrs. James Williams's face, you could see a little library of the world's best thoughts in 3 parts. Part 1 was about how James Williams was the perfect man. Part 2 was an essay about the world, saying it is a very wonderful place. Part 3 was the belief that by sitting in the highest seat in a Rubberneck auto, they were going faster than anyone could imagine. James Williams, you would guess, was about 24. You will be happy to know that your guess was correct. He was exactly 23 years, 11 months, and 29 days old. He was strong, active, had a good jawline, was friendly, and had a bright future. He was on his honeymoon. Dear kind fairy, please cancel those wishes for money, fast cars, fame, new hair, and being the president of the boat club. Instead, turn back time. Oh, turn back time and give us just a tiny bit of our honeymoon again. Just 1 hour, dear fairy, so we can remember how the grass and poplar trees looked and the bow of those bonnet strings tied under her chin, even if it was the hat pins that did the work. Can't do it? Okay, then give us that fast car and the oil stocks. Just in front of Mrs. James Williams sat a girl in a loose tan jacket and a straw hat with grapes and roses on it. Only in dreams and hat shops do we see grapes and roses together. This girl looked with big blue eyes, believing everything the megaphone man said about millionaires being important. Between the megaphone man's talks, she chewed Pepsin gum. Next to this girl sat a young man about 24. He was strong, active, had a good jawline, and was friendly. But if he seems similar to James Williams, remember he is not from Cloverdale. This man was from the tough streets and sharp corners of the city. He looked around sharply, not liking the asphalt under the feet of the people he looked down on from his seat. While the megaphone man talks about a famous hotel, let me quietly tell you to sit tight, because now things are about to happen, and the big city will cover them up again like a piece of paper floating down from a tall building. The girl in the tan jacket turned around to look at the people in the last seat. She had already looked at the other passengers. The seat behind her was the last one to check. Her eyes met Mrs. James Williams' eyes. In a very short moment, they shared their life's experiences, histories, hopes, and dreams. And they did this just by looking at each other, faster than two men could decide whether to fight or share a match. The bride leaned forward. She and the girl talked quickly together, their tongues moving fast like two snakes, a comparison that doesn't mean anything bad. 2 smiles and many nods ended their quick talk. Now, in the quiet street in front of the Rubberneck car, a man in dark clothes stood with his hand up. From the sidewalk, another man hurried to join him. The girl with the hat full of grapes and roses quickly grabbed her friend's arm and whispered in his ear. That young man showed he could act fast. He bent down, slid over the edge of the car, hung there for a second, and then disappeared. A few of the top riders saw him do this, but they didn't say anything, thinking it might be normal in this strange city. The young man dodged a horse-drawn cab and then moved smoothly like a leaf between a big van and a flower delivery truck. The girl in the tan jacket turned again and looked at Mrs. James Williams. Then she faced forward and sat still while the Rubberneck car stopped because of the badge shown by the plainclothes policeman. "What's wrong?" asked the megaphone man, stopping his talk to speak normally. "Stop the car for a minute," said the policeman. "There's a man on board we want, a burglar from Philadelphia called Pinky McGuire. He's on the back seat. Be careful, Donovan." Donovan went to the back wheel and looked up at James Williams. "Come down, friend," he said, nicely. "We've got you. Back to jail for you." Hiding on a Rubberneck car isn't a bad idea, though. I'll remember that. Softly through the megaphone, the conductor advised, "Better step off, sir, and explain. The car must continue its tour." James Williams was calm. Slowly, he walked through the passengers to the front of the car. His wife followed, but first, she turned and saw the young man who had jumped off hiding behind a tree not far away. James Williams stepped onto the ground and faced the policeman with a smile. He was thinking about what a funny story he could tell in Cloverdale about being mistaken for a burglar. The Rubberneck coach stayed, as it was a very interesting sight for the passengers. "My name is James Williams from Cloverdale, Missouri," he said kindly, so they would not feel too embarrassed. "I have letters here that will show." "You'll come with us, please," said the plainclothes man. "Pinky, McGuire's description fits you exactly. A detective saw you on the Rubberneck at Central Park and called us to take you in. You can explain at the station." James Williams's wife, his bride of 2 weeks, looked at him with soft, shining eyes and a blush on her cheeks. She said to him, "Go with them quietly, Pinky, and maybe it'll help you." As the glaring at Gotham car rolled away, she turned and blew a kiss. His wife blew a kiss to someone high up on the Rubberneck. "Your girl gives you good advice, McGuire," said Donovan. "Come on, now." Then James Williams became very angry and a little crazy. He pushed his hat back on his head. "My wife thinks I am a burglar," he said, recklessly. "I never knew she was crazy, so I must be. And if I'm crazy, they can't do anything to me for hurting you two fools in my madness." Then he resisted arrest so cheerfully and actively that more policemen had to be called, and then even more to handle the excited crowd. At the station, the desk sergeant asked for his name. McDoodle, the Pink, or Pinky the Brute, I forget which, was James Williams's answer. "But you can bet I'm a burglar. Don't leave that out. And you can add that it took 5 of them to catch me. I'd especially like that in the records." In an hour, Mrs. James Williams came with Uncle Thomas of Madison Avenue in a respectable car and proof that James was innocent, like the third act of a drama with a car from an automobile company. After the police sternly warned James Williams for pretending to be a famous burglar and let him go as honorably as they could, Mrs. Williams took him aside in the station. James Williams looked at her with one eye. He always said that Donovan closed the other eye while someone held his right hand. Never before had he spoken a word of blame to her. "If you can explain," he began rather stiffly. "Why you?" "Dear," she interrupted, "listen. It was an hour of pain and trouble for you. I did it for her. I mean the girl who spoke to me on the coach. I was so happy, Jim, so happy with you that I couldn't refuse that happiness to someone else. Jim, they got married only this morning, those two, and I wanted him to get away. While they were struggling with you, I saw him slip away from behind his tree and run across the park. That's all of it, dear. I had to do it. This is how one bride knows another who stands in the special light that shines only once and briefly for each one. By rice and satin bows, men become aware of weddings. But a bride knows another bride at a glance. And between them, comfort and meaning pass quickly in a language that men and widows do not understand.